Hi, my name is Lisa Campanecci, and I teach 8th grade science in Brookfield, Wisconsin. One strategy that I use for sub-plans is I actually tape the lesson either at home or the day before at school, and include in the lesson like moments where the kids have to pause and talk to their neighbor, or moments where the kids have to pause the video and write something down. So it's almost like I'm there. I'm teaching the class. I'm not relying on the substitute teacher to do this. But the kids are still getting the content. And this is especially important if we're at a critical moment in our unit where I don't want to be gone for a day, or I don't want a fluff day or a review day. I want to keep them moving. This is also is a really good strategy if it's just a lot of like, pause and think about this, pause and talk to your neighbor. That can be done just through a video while you're not there. And you can even have a kid being at your desk, pausing it when it's supposed to pause. And then the guest teacher, the substitute teacher is walking around kind of monitoring the kids' learning. So here I have a sample for you, and you can see how I do this. Hi, everyone. As you know, I'm out today, but we are still going to have a lesson. And at times I'm going to ask you to pause the video or to go and do something while I'm just sitting here. And so the guest teacher is going to be here just to facilitate, to help you guys. Of course, you can pause the video if you need time to do something. But we're going to have a regular lesson with me right here. The only supply that you need is a pencil or a pen, no papers, so you can take everything else off of your tables and go put it around the perimeter of the classroom. So go ahead and pause the video right now and get out something to write with and clear your areas. All right, today's lesson, the question is, how do chromosomes cause cattle to be born with extra big muscles? What we're going to do today, first I want you to take a moment and talk to your neighbors. What did we figure out the last time about chromosomes? And what are we trying to figure out today? What did I just say? Okay, first let's take a look at these pictures of chromosomes. So as you may have said, chromosomes are in our nucleus of our cells, in all of our cells, and we get them from our parents. So that's what you should have said in the last little discussion. But here's a picture of chromosomes here. And then we're zooming in. So I want you to take a second, talk to your neighbor. What are these little dots? Okay, as you talk to your neighbor, maybe you said something about molecules. Maybe you noticed this up here. So these little dots right here are little atoms, okay? Different elements here: hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, carbon, phosphorus. And we color code them so that we can tell the difference of what they are. They're different sizes because these atoms are different sizes. But this is a close-up of just this tiny little area. So your chromosomes are huge, huge molecules, okay? There we go. How can we look at such small things? Well, of course, we use some microscopes and then we do some tests to kind of see what's going on at this level. But what do you think are some, in here, let me just look at the sizes here. All right. We've got micrometers right here. So there's 1,000 micrometers in 1 millimeter. You guys, your pencil lead, if you have a 0.7 pencil lead, that's not even 1 millimeter. That's a 0.7 millimeters. So that's how tiny. There's 1,000 micrometers in 1 millimeter, 1,000. And then look over here. This is approximately 10 nanometers, which is 1 micrometer. These are crazy, crazy small. What do you think is a challenge that we face as scientists when trying to compare between these structures when they're really small? Tell your neighbor. What do you think? Pause the video. Okay, you should have said these are really complicated molecules and they're really small. So comparing them at such detail is complicated for those two reasons. So what we're going to do is we're going to simplify some things. So here we have an image of a chromosome pair. Remember, you have 2 copies of chromosomes, one from mom, one from dad. This is for one individual cow. The colors were added to show where 3 corresponding dark bands are found on each of these chromosome pairs. So you see these bands right here. We compared the chromosomes, all right? Here's where the 3 corresponding dark bands are. They're similar dark bands. What additional patterns does this visualization help us see in these chromosomes? Pause the video, tell your neighbor. All right. You should have mentioned, or maybe you mentioned that, oh, it's easy to make the comparisons because I know that I'm comparing these 2 yellow, these 2 blue, and these 2 green and these 2 blue, things like that. You may have also noticed that the blue seemed bigger on this side than on this side, but maybe you weren't sure. Maybe you're like, I think it looks bigger, but did they do that on purpose or is that just bad coloring? So what we're doing is we are adding some shapes to help keep track of our comparisons. So what do the colors of the shapes represent? And what do the shapes represent? Pause the video, talk to your neighbor. All right. You should have said that the colors represent where on the chromosome this is. Yellow is at the top, green is in the middle, blue is on the bottom. And then the shape represents like how big it is and how they compare to each other. So you can see that these 2 are the same because they have the same shape. These 2 are the same because they have that same wave shape. These 2 are different. So they were purposefully shaded different sizes. Here's a circle, here's a star. So that's a really obvious way for us to see same, different. And then we're going to make it even cleaner still. So since we want to compare several different sets of chromosomes to look for patterns, we're going to use the colors and symbols to represent parts of the chromosome, structures on the different chromosomes, rather than the image of the chromosomes themselves. This is kind of messy and fuzzy and pixelated. This is nice and clean, okay? So the lines represent what? Say it out loud. The chromosomes. The colors represent what? Say it out loud. The location on the chromosome. And the shape represents what? The specific structure on the chromosome and if it's the same or different as that other pair. How could looking at more cattle chromosomes help us figure this out? Like, what more information would help us? Talk to your neighbor. Okay, just to remind us about actin and myosin, we've got the actin that goes in and out. Remember, we did those hand gestures, and the myosin that pulls on the actin to shorten those muscle cells. What are they made of? Say it out loud. They're made of protein. And how does their structure help them do their job? Well, that myosin has that curved shape there that helps grab that actin. I want you to consider these questions as you use a simulation to compare the sizes of chromosomes and proteins. Are chromosomes bigger or smaller than proteins? And how would you describe the sizes of proteins and chromosomes? Okay, these molecular models show the 2 versions of the protein called myosin. Pause the video. What do you notice comparing these 2? All right, you should have said, this one looks really full. They both have like blue and red and some purple, which is correct. This one seems really full. And remember, these little dots are atoms. This one looks like wholly or incomplete, right? Okay, these are both called myostatin. We're going to look at some cattle photos. And I want you to think, what is our goal when we're looking at these? And we're going to see chromosomes and the proteins. And how do you think we should organize this information? So pause the video and do that. We're trying to answer, what are the chromosomes doing? How are they related to those extra big muscles? We're trying to answer, how are the new protein and the chromosomes related? Like, what's that connection there? And we're trying to answer, what patterns do we see that might connect the chromosomes or proteins to extra big muscles? Those are our goals, okay? So I've got the cattle cards out at the lab table. Everybody needs one cattle card, so you can pause the video, the guest teacher can pass them out, or somebody in the classroom can pass them out. Everybody gets one card, so pause the video and do that. Okay, your job is to look for patterns in both chromosomes and proteins of the cattle we have here from last time. Our goal is to see if there are any connections with the extra big muscles. So you're just going to walk around. Don't organize yourselves in anything. Just keep looking at everyone's cards and see if you can find patterns. You have 3 minutes. Go. All right, take a seat. Pause the video, take a seat. Okay, now what we want to do is, oops, sorry. I have a worksheet on the side. It's called Guiding Questions for Chromosome and Protein Data. So pause the video and let's distribute that so everybody has one of those, please. And you should still have your cards. Okay, on this worksheet, it should look like what I see here. And I want you to look at your cattle photo that you have and record your animal's phenotype on number 1. Your phenotype choices, remember phenotype like that physical feature. Either you have a typical cow, a medium cow, or an extra muscled cow. Now, I want you to relocate. In a minute, you're going to pause the video, relocate yourself in the classroom with other people who have the cattle of the same phenotype. You're going to work with your group to find patterns in the chromosome symbols, so the colors and the colorful shapes for your cattle, and record those patterns in number 2. Pause the video, go. Okay, you should be sitting down. So if you're not sitting down, go sit down. And you can pause the video if you need time to do that. Now you're going to relocate yourself in the classroom with other people whose cattle have the same versions of myostatin that you have. So do you have both full myostatin proteins? Do you have both wholly myostatin proteins or partial? Or do you have one of each? So find those people, work together to record number 3 about what you notice. And when you're done, sit down, pause the video. Okay. Now, I want you to work together at your tables to answer the remaining questions on this handout here. Pause the video, take care of that. Right. The last thing that we're going to do today, I know I have a 5-minute timer here. You can just ignore that. I want you to develop an initial model that shows the relationships among the following, because you probably noticed some things today, right? Chromosome information, proteins, and cattle's muscle phenotype. What do they have to do with each other? A relationship. How do they affect each other? What do they have to do with each other? That's the last thing that we're going to do today, and I'll see you tomorrow.